This is your last call for My Wife the Dietitian. The show is just about to start.
Come on, let's go. Hurry up.
I'm trying. I can't get my shoe on.
Welcome to My Wife the Dietitian, a fun weekly podcast about nutrition and healthy lifestyle. I'm Rob, and together with my wife Sandra, we invite you to join us on this informative and entertaining journey through the complex world of healthy eating.
Join us each week as we strive to help you with transforming your overall health and relationship with food through up-to-date, evidence-based nutrition information. Nearly 12 million Canadians are affected by diabetes. That's 1 in 3. Every 3 minutes, a Canadian is diagnosed with diabetes or prediabetes. The number of cases of diagnosed diabetes is predicted to increase 26% within the next decade. Today, we talk with Kim Kyle, specialist diabetes dietitian, all about diabetes in women, how it affects the body, the role of nutrition in managing blood sugars, the importance of balanced meals and snacks, and a healthy lifestyle. We cover food and nutrition aspects such as sugar, starch, fiber, protein, and vegetables. Stay with us.
Enjoying the show? You can help others find it and enjoy it too by giving us a 5-star rating or review. If you feel like reaching out to us with a question or comment, you can send us an email at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website at mywifethedietitian.com, as well as our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy the show. Welcome to My Wife the Dietitian. Hello, Sandra.
Hey, Rob.
How are you?
Good. We have some sobering statistics there about diabetes and how many Canadians and Americans have it and how many are going to be diagnosed, how many people are going to be diagnosed within the next decade. It's just increasing.
Wow.
I know. And partly our population is aging, but we're going to be talking today to Kim Kyle, a specialist dietitian in diabetes care. And we're going to be talking all about how it affects women, especially middle age. So, can menopause increase the risk of diabetes for a woman? What are some of the other risks that might set a woman up to develop diabetes through that transition? And also, we're going to talk about what foods to include that might help with menopause symptoms, plus helping prevent diabetes and to help manage blood sugars for people.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds like a pretty full episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kim is a fireball, eh?
She is, yeah. She was a lot of fun to talk to. So, we encourage you to stick around. This is a really informative episode, and Kim knows her stuff. She's very knowledgeable, and like Sandra said, she's a fireball. She's a lot of fun to listen to. So, yeah, hope you stick around and learn all about diabetes and the health risks that are associated with that. We'll be right back with Kim.
Hi, we're here with Kim Kyle, dietitian, and I'm so happy to welcome you to the show today, Kim. Can you tell the listeners who you are and what you do with your work and who you help?
Well, thank you, Sandra and Rob, for inviting me today. This is really such a pleasure and so fun to get to know you guys and listen to your podcast, and it's been so helpful. But I am a dietitian. I serve anybody with diabetes in my clinic that I have been serving for almost 19 years now in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I really have to hear the backstory because I have seen you on YouTube and I've heard other interviews with you. At one point you said that you were like Julie on the Love Boat, and you said, I don't think you'll understand this because the interviewer was like a millennial or something. And as soon as you said it, I'm like, I know that show. And I thought that was awesome.
That's right. And that's really was my nickname at the hotel.
That's
so
funny.
I loved the beach and I loved customer service. I grew up, my father was the best business coach ever. my dad taught us at a very young age, customer service, and he was an executive. And, so we learned from the best. So I knew that I really loved to serve. I was in retail before that. And then I'm like, I got to work at the hotel because the beach is right there. When I have my lunch break or I get off work, I'm right there at the beach and it's lovely. But my first job was just that. I was the one that would solve hotel complaints, hotel issues. I'd come in there with gift cards and love and understanding, and I solved problems. That was my job.
That's perfect.
Solving problems. And also a great introduction to public speaking is I welcomed all of the groups, all of the corporate groups that would come in. I would usually be there for like the wife section, like, what can you do here in Virginia Beach? This is where you can go to eat, and this is where you can go to shop, and this is a great place to go at the beach. You can go to this store and park here. And so I was like really the welcoming person for the hotel. And then they said that they no longer wanted to do that job. And so I literally lost my job. And I was like, what am I going to do now? Because they were redefining, I guess, who I was as an employee. And so I became, then I was at the front desk and welcoming guests in and checking them into rooms. And I really loved that job too.
You probably raised the bar too high. And then they're like, how are we going to be able to keep up with this after she's gone? We just got to get rid of her now and put the bar back down where it was.
Yeah, it was a really great job. But then, I stayed there for another few years at the front desk and still welcoming guests, but just at the front desk. And it was a lovely job. At the time, I was also the hotel operator, but we didn't have a recording. I called you in the morning for your wake up call. It was my voice, me personally at the moment. And
That's
I
hilarious.
had maybe sometimes 15 people to call to wake up. This is your wake up call. It's, it's this temperature and this is what's going on today at your event. And I'd have to talk so fast and, so calmly because people were just waking up. But I learned a lot from that job. It was a really great first job. And that really led to my, career here and being comfortable speaking in front of people and doing groups and getting up and, voicing, what some people are afraid to talk about. And that's diabetes. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Right.
And you serve a whole bunch of anyone with diabetes. You do prenatal groups, like people with gestational diabetes, type 1, and probably the bulk of your clientele I bet are type 2.
Yes, that is really where my heart is. My dad had type 2 diabetes and heart disease. We nearly lost him. I mean, he could have had a massive heart attack, and the doctor's like, he's one day away from dying.
Wow.
From a massive heart attack.
What?
He was just coming back from a trip. He's, businessman. He's, drinking beer and entertaining clients. And he told me a year later after his heart surgery that he could not even make it through the airport just to get back home. Like he could barely make it back. And so
And what age was that?
He was 50 at the time. He was 50. I was 25 and living my life, having a great time living at the beach. And so he went in for emergency bypass surgery, 5 quintuple bypass surgery on his heart. And I don't know if it was before or after he was diagnosed with diabetes. He didn't really tell us a lot about what was happening. But at that moment, I'm like, I am in your business, Dad. I don't care if you hate it, but I'm going to figure out what's going on. And then through his recovery and his cardiac rehab, I kind of started liking the nutrition. I cleaned up my own diet. I lost 20 pounds in the process of helping him. I'm like, maybe there's something into this. And so I hated school. I was never ever going to go back to college, but I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat again, because it was the best decision I ever made. So I became a dietitian. It took me about 8 years because I had to work and go to school and, work and go to school. It was not easy. It was not an easy path, but I did it and I graduated and got the internship, which was so hard. Oh my gosh. I don't know how hard the job you had getting the internship, Sandra, but it's just, there was like a 2-year delay because there was no room for me, but eventually I did it. One of my first job was working in corporate health. And then my second job, which I've kept, 2 years out of my internship, was this job I have now. 19 years and going strong.
Wow, amazing.
Holy, that's incredible. Yeah, holy. That's quite the story, and a good kind of reason, like the why to, pursue the schooling and the profession and to get credentialed as a registered dietitian, like to help your dad. And, you know, your eyes were opened, I think, to the world of nutrition, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible because when my dad was diagnosed with heart disease and diabetes, all I could think about was his parents, my grandparents. My grandmother was a double amputee and blind from diabetes.
Oh, crazy.
And his whole family. I mean, my grandfather had a massive heart attack at 65 and didn't survive. And that could have been my dad.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. At 50.
Gosh.
What part of that diagnosis was lifestyle based, and has that sort of changed? I mean, I know still the diabetes, but I'm guessing that, like, if he's running around and you know, my image of a businessman is, you know, like pretty stressed life, lots of business meetings, lots of, you know, eating out, alcohol, late nights, early mornings, you know, is that changed or?
Yeah, well, my dad was a smoker also for many, many years. He had quit smoking by this time that he had the heart event, but his lifestyle, the traveling, the, you know, eating out all the time and entertaining clients and the alcohol, it's really our genetics too. I mean, we're all predisposed to that. I think our genetics do carry a heavy weight with diabetes, and all of his siblings had diabetes. Now my siblings and I don't have diabetes at all. So that shows the strength of nutrition, because through my dad's recovery, we all learned, you know, hey, we got to pay attention to this. You know, it's something that we are at risk of, and we really need to take care of ourselves. And I think as his kids, we have absolutely taken better care of ourselves.
Oh, yeah, it makes a difference, hey?
It makes
and that has helped a lot, yeah. But for me, I'm telling you, it's not only genetics, but what we're here to talk about today is definitely how menopause can predispose you to diabetes, and I am not immune to that.
Oh, right. Because you've been practicing for 19 years, and yeah, you're probably in that midlife time period. And so for yourself, like you're going through this too, and you're helping clients. And so that is the question, like, can menopause increase the risk of a woman developing diabetes?
It really is interesting, Sandra and Rob, that you almost have to go through things to be a better teacher. And I think you guys do that, and we all do that in our professions. But I had to go through almost losing my dad to be a better educator, to understand where the family member is coming from, where the patient's coming from. I worked with my dad for 31 years on his diet, and it was not easy. Wow. We're very strong-willed people. We like what we like, and we don't want to be told we can't do something. If you tell us no, we're going to do it anyway. That's who we are. That's probably what keeps us alive. I don't know. But, totally. And then going through menopause, I have never been so flabbergasted with the amount of changes your body goes through over menopause. I was not ready. I was not prepared. And it really I felt like I can't even do what I need to do. And I'm a dietitian. I should know better, but it still affected me. And it's a struggle. It's a daily struggle, but I'm finding my way out of it. And it's the core principles, that we'll talk about, but it can affect me. It can affect Sandra. It can affect anybody who, is in that menopausal time. You really have to have those core strategies in place to really get through this without, too much poor health conditions, because it can definitely, this change can change everything about your metabolism, your health history, your health outcome.
Oh yeah.
It's something we have to be ready for.
Yeah. And that's like, it's one thing too, is I think for most women, usually they're not seeing the doctor too often. And then in midlife, all of a sudden the doctor visits increase for different reasons. But one of the things is the blood work and looking at, fasting blood sugar or hemoglobin A1C. And I've seen a lot of clients that are, quite shocked and had no idea that their blood sugars were kind of not in good control. And it kind of coincided with the perimenopause, like, the hormone changes. And I'm just wondering, is that something that you see? And is this common?
Yes, so much so. I wonder, and this is my 19-year history, I wonder that the doctors just don't know what to say to us in our 30s, because that's when we need to be preparing our body for menopause. And I didn't hear it at all from any of my doctors. Thankfully, I knew some things to do, but finding out that suddenly I had prediabetes last year. It was a 5.7. I couldn't believe it. But that's what the hormonal changes do so quickly. And yeah, I became very, very aware of my blood sugars. I wore a continuous glucose monitor, and it's more about awareness. But the doctors are still to this day not recognizing that prediabetes is not an emergency, but it's urgent. You should never let that go. And so often I'll hear from my type 2 diabetes and even my former GDM patients. They're like, yeah, my doc said I was having a little bit of blood sugar issues. Yeah, my triglycerides are up a little bit, but not to worry about it. You know, come back in a year and we'll talk about it. And in a year, they're full blown type 2 diabetes.
Yes.
And high cholesterol. It's like, that's just insane that a doctor can't see how we see it. You know, you have got to prepare a decade before this even happens. And I'm hoping now with, more reach out into the internet and more dietitians online that we are going to get that message out to our patients. Like, you have got to be ready. You can take care of it, certainly, when it comes upon you with my prediabetes, with the belly fat, with the hormonal changes. You can take care of it for sure, but be prepared, know what to expect. So maybe you can avoid it.
It's funny. I was talking to Sandra this morning almost about this exact same thing, and just saying that the health industry in general seems to be more focused on, or less focused, I should say, on prevention, and just, let's wait until it's broken and then we'll fix it, instead of looking at the signs like you're saying and doing something about it before it's full blown, issue. And it's,
you are right, Rob.
Yeah,
it's
exactly unfortunate.
Right.
And I don't know if it's a money thing or if it's just the way the system's built and it's too hard to change, but it's definitely
staffing.
Noticeable.
There's a
staffing,
shortage
right?
of healthcare providers really out there. I mean, I think you were talking more about like the kind of the government system and, healthcare in Canada. It's kind of part of, we don't have to pay for it per se, but at the same time, there's not a lot of preventative. It's more like, if it's broken, then go see your doctor. And they're not doing like, we'll come in every year to get your blood work or, that kind of thing. It's not kind of a like screening there's public health screening for colon cancer and breast cancer. But I think Rob was kind of hoping for more. What were you hoping for when you went to the doctor?
I don't know. I remember as a kid going to the doctor and they would do everything. I mean, they'd literally check every single body part to make sure it was functioning as it should. And it was once a year, and you'd have all these different tests and lab work and all that. And it felt like, okay, there's my once a year. I'm good to go. And now they're like, yeah, we don't really do that anymore. We kind of just wait until there's symptoms and then we look into it. And it's like, well, that's really like, that's kind of backwards, isn't it? Like, can we not just run some blood work? And they're like, well, you had it done last year. I'm like, so I can't get it done again? Like, well, if you want, we can. It's like, wow, it was shocking, to be honest, like how little effort they seem to want to put into, seeing if you were healthy or not.
Well, I think it's more
that is shocking.
You're a pretty healtty guy. I'm sorry, I'm just defending because I feel like there is a shortage and they don't have the time to spend. They have to spend the time on the people that are sick and that, you know what I mean? So the preventative, the proactive, unfortunately, that's more that's almost like private. Like if you want that, you pay for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how
it's not a priority.
Going.
But if there was money, then it would be a priority, right? I mean, like that's obviously the money or the shortage of not, the shortage is based on money, right? So it seems like money is preventing healthcare from being addressed the way it should be.
That is really interesting about your Canadian healthcare. I did not know that. I mean, how many of our patients have high blood sugars and they don't even know it?
Yeah.
until it could be too late. They already have damage. And, being able to go to the doctor quickly and get screened and get help, is really part of this success.
Mm-hmm.
Heart disease. I mean, you don't know that your artery is getting clogged until it could be just a fatal heart attack. And if you don't get those labs every year, you don't even know that you're at risk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's so interesting.
And I don't know that it's right across the board here. I mean, I think it could just be, individual ways that individuals individual providers have different ways of, some people wait until it's broken to fix it. Others are like over the top, let's get everything checked. And so, I think everyone's different when it comes to that, but it seems in general that there's more of a trend. The trend isn't prevention, I guess, from what I've seen anyway.
I think here we probably get more labs than what we need because the doctor sends it through insurance. They get paid from the insurance, the more labs that they order. So we have a lot of screening all the time.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that is wow. I didn't realize that today's episode would go into this. It's so interesting. I love how it's great because I love the tangents and it gives more information for our listeners and just for us to learn about what's happening in other parts of the world. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we have maybe overkill. Maybe it's too much information. I don't know. But I think the more the merrier, as long as you know what's going on in your body. We have annual exams and you got to get the annual exams. I mean, the insurance pays for it and our hospital encourages it. They remind us when are you going to get your annual exam? You better get in there. It's almost the end of the year. Constant reminders. And I'm so thankful. I would have never known about my prediabetes last year and been able to, snap into compliance very, very quickly to get out of it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So what are some things that, like, just in general, if someone is like in your shoes and then they have this new diagnosis or like pre-diabetes or, your blood sugars are running a bit high, what can they do to kind of help prevent the, developing diabetes?
That is such a great question. And I will always get from my patients, what do you eat? What is your lifestyle like? What are you going through right now? We talk a lot about just behavior and lifestyle. And there's a lot of nutrition concerns because there's just ample amounts of food available and we're stuck in our own habits. And so we really try to clean up the diet. And the best thing I tell people is you can enjoy the food that you like, but it can't be every day. I mean, you have to have some boundaries over your health. Like you have to have some interest in wanting to get better. And we know that food heals. I mean, there's been lots of studies, and I don't have to tell you all the studies, but food heals. So we want foods that come natural to our plate. An apple on the tree, an apple on our plate, it hasn't been changed. It's exactly the way it was as it was growing on the tree. That's the kind of foods that we need to include more of, not the only foods that we can include in our diet. So I help people transition from, getting more fruits and vegetables in their diet because those foods take a long time to digest. They make us feel more full. When we are eating foods that quickly digest, that's what raises the blood sugar so quickly. And in menopause, our insulin is not working as fast as it used to 10 years ago. So our blood sugars stay higher longer. You would never even feel that. It's so minuscule, but over every day for a year, 2 years, 5 years, that builds up. And that's how we get to that pre-diabetic stage. And our fat starts to accumulate in different places where it's more dangerous, which is in our abdomen. For men and women, that is the terrible place to store body fat.
It's called visceral, right? Like visceral
fat. Yes. It's not subcutaneous. Yeah, it's visceral. It's around our organs. And it's very hard to get rid of, trust me. But it's not impossible. It's just, you got to be consistent about it. But so I want to get people eating more natural foods, still enjoying the foods that they like the chips and the ultra processed foods. But can we get a balance? Can we help improve the longevity of your insulin cells by not working them so dang hard? We want to keep our insulin cells calm and happy And almost on like a vacation, we don't want them to work so hard when we're drinking a soda or sweet tea or juice or smoothies and chips and, having tons of pasta. We really want to keep our insulin cells working for our lifetime. And that means being kind to them and not having them work so hard with meals and snacks. And that's how I put it to my patients. Like, let's just be kind to the insulin cells, almost humanizing the insulin cell. So it's almost a person that they're caring for.
Oh, I like that. That's a neat approach. That's like, it really makes you feel like, oh, let's take care of these. And like they're working too hard. They're going to burn out and then they're going to either quit or be on strike or leave.
You got it. You got it. And that's what happened to my dad. Eventually, at the end of his life, he was requiring insulin, 3 to 5 times a day. So, and I would fill up all of his syringes. I made sure he took the right amount. We were carb counting, insulin to carb ratios. We were doing all of that. But by the end of his life, his insulin cells were just not there. He was insulin dependent type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
Right. Okay. I remember at some point they said, oh, anyone on insulin, like external insulin is going to be called type 1, even if it was a type 2. But it can be confusing, I think, for a lot of people for the general population, eh?
Totally.
Yeah, because they still have insulin. They still have insulin in their body, so they're not type 1, but their insulin cells no longer work. They're so resistant that they can't move the sugar out of the blood any longer. And so having that extra insulin coming in from outside the body to help the insulin cells work.
Right.
Just to give them some helper so they don't have to work so hard. But yeah, you still have insulin in your body. I think that would be the difference between type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is a complete elimination of your insulin cells from an autoimmune condition. Your body just destroys it. Mm-hmm. You have nothing. It's gone. The only way to move sugar out of your bloodstream is with insulin. So you have to take it for the rest of your life. It's a lifelong condition.
Wow.
Yeah, and thanks to Banting, who discovered the insulin, because otherwise people were dying.
Goodness.
Like if you had type 1 diabetes, then you could not survive after a day or two. Or it was, a couple of days, I guess. But yeah, you're basically, it's
you starve to death.
Yeah.
You would just starve to death. You could never get the sugar. And sugar is energy. I tell my patients all the time, sugar is not a bad word. It is not a 4-letter word in my dictionary. It is life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar gives us energy. That's life. But sugar has such a negative connotation when you talk about it. So when I'm like, oh, we have to increase your fruit intake. Oh, that's sugar. We can't go there. And so I gently try to help them through that and, getting my patients on more of a plant-based diet. I'm a big fan of that. Now, I still eat meat, but I think we really have to transition some of our meals into a plant-based meal. Mm-hmm. Lots of fiber, lots of fruits and vegetables, lean meat, healthy fats. And that's what keeps our insulin cells happy. They don't have to work as quickly and as long to get our blood sugars down. I wore the continuous glucose monitor for a year, and I was amazed at how quickly blood sugars rise when you overdo the carbohydrates, and how quickly the blood sugars recover when you go out and do some exercise. That was a beautiful thing to experience and to see that even though you might have a meal that's higher in carbs, you can recover so fast with exercise, movement, let those muscles suck in that blood sugar. So, again, to help your insulin cells out, and then reduction of body fat. I mean, I heard it. I do not know who I heard this from. It was a podcast, but it was beautiful. And it was never explained to me like this before, but this is how it works. When you have a higher fat diet, so we're eating ultra processed foods and everybody's on the carnivore diet, fat does not need somebody. I'm humanizing the body a little bit. So fat, when you're eating fat, it can get into your cell very quickly. It does not need an escort. It does not need somebody to open up the door for you like insulin does. Fat can go right to your cells and start filling up your cells. Blood sugar needs an escort. Insulin is the escort for blood sugar, and it has to take it around to all these cells and knock on the door and go, hey, do you have room for some sugar? And the cells are like, oh man, fat got here first. So no, I don't have room. You have to go find another cell. So now insulin's, walking this sugar around trying to find space for it. So that was never explained to me before. And I'm like, that makes so much sense why a low fat diet is so important for blood sugar control, because fat's going to get there first and fill up those cells, and sugar has nowhere to go. So we have to make new cells to put the sugar in, store it as fat, as energy. And it's just this huge cycle that we can get into that can really lead us to insulin resistance, especially over menopause. But a low fat, high fiber diet is what I'm preaching from the rooftops now. Everybody I come across, my pregnant ladies, my type 2s, my type 1s, it's low fat, it's high fiber, enjoying your food, but we have got to keep those carbs controlled, and we've got to keep the fat down and the fiber high. And that seems to be the right strategy for me personally. I've had success following my own advice.
That is so interesting. So when you say low fat, it's not no fat, like it's not like no avocado. What kind of fat are you talking about?
Low saturated fat.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, healthy fats, we certainly need avocados, nuts and seeds and olives and olive oils. Low saturated fat, and that adds up very quickly. If you try to get in less than 10 grams of saturated fat a day, just with a normal healthy diet, I log my food and I'm looking at it all the time. It's like, that is insane. How did I get 25 grams of saturated fat today? That's insane. And so even I have to make daily adjustments and be mindful of the things I'm eating.
They sneak it in everywhere. It's like, you just think, like, when I think, okay, saturated fat, I think, okay, the mayonnaise on my sandwich or the dressing on my salad. But I mean, it's in everything these days. I mean, all the different oils they use in processed foods. And, you know, I can see how you would get up there pretty quick if you're not careful with just eating your apple.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's more high fiber, whole foods. Those don't have saturated fat. Fiber helps to lift out the fat, which is great. It makes room. Fiber is a good cleaner outer. It's like a scrub brush for not only your fatty cells, but for your intestinal tract. It's a wonderful thing to know that we need 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. And I don't know about Canadians, but the average American gets 10 grams of fiber a day or less.
Yes, I think it's similar.
Low.
Yeah.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah, it's like 95% of North Americans are not getting the recommended amount of fiber.
Wow. That is so interesting that it affects your country as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's so true. 25 to 35 grams a day of fiber. And that can help with keeping your estrogen levels good too in your system, because it actually clears out the estrogen that you don't need anymore. Like you take to the liver, it kind of escorts it to the liver. Because I used to work with the cancer clinic and helping women with breast cancer. And that was a big thing. And eat more fiber, and the same reason, and cholesterol too, right? To help reduce your cholesterol. So fiber is like such an important piece of the puzzle. And it's not about adding fiber supplements per se. It's just getting more of what you said, like foods that actually, I loved what you said. I saw it in your notes and I was like, I just love it. Choose foods that look like they do in nature. I love that. I might use that again.
Yeah. It really helps just to bring a visual experience to my patient. I am not a sciencey dietitian. I'm not your typical dietitian. I rebuked the dietitians in the hospital. I'm like, I don't want to be you. I want to be someone who's more like my patients. And so
Totally. Someone they can understand.
Not a good experience in clinical rotation. I'm like, I am not for you guys. I'm visual. I don't like to read stuff. I love listening to podcasts like you guys. I love looking at pictures. You show me a picture, I'm in. So most of my education is based on, let's visualize how this is going to happen. And if it looks like it does in nature on your plate, you're good. You know, that's a natural food. That's a whole food. You're going to have a longer digestive time. It's going to make you feel fuller longer. Your blood sugars are going to be better longer. And it's just a better way to choose foods.
I love that, because when you said that your clients will say, oh, fruit, no, that's sugar. That's what I hear all the time too. And it's like the why it's been demonized is like, you know, like, oh, you can't eat bananas. You can't eat any like potatoes or because it's sugar. But it's like, oh my gosh, but it's like Mother Nature's package of like fiber and, you know, B vitamins and all of these like nutrients that our body needs. And that's how we've always been in, you know, through generations is eating whole fruits and vegetables and foods that look like they do in nature. So that's going to make us healthier than eating some keto snack that is like ultra processed that says keto on it. Like it's the marketing and claims are just, it's so confusing for people.
It really is. And the fear mongering sells,
Yeah.
The worst news that you could have, is flashing on the TV. It's just, it sells. It's something that's inflammatory sells. And it's unfortunate that that's the message that a lot of our patients are getting. I'm one of the dietitians that support this really lovely Facebook group called Diabetes 101 for Beginners. This lady, Arena, this is her baby, her husband died from kidney failure, chronic kidney disease from diabetes. And I popped in there one day. I'm like, I'm going to answer some questions that are on this Facebook group. And she immediately messaged me. She's like, would you like to help with the support group? I'm like, yeah, I would love to do that. But I get lots, I don't get in fights, but I get a lot of fighting comments like, I can't believe you said it's okay for somebody to eat an apple. And these are people on the forum. These are people who go on the forum. Yeah. Like, I can't believe you're telling people it's okay to have a strawberry. And I'm like, we have a lot of work to do in this group because the fear just, it just gets bigger and bigger. It's like a snowball effect. So there's a lot to do out there as a dietitian, having a voice. You guys have a voice. I have a voice, and we need to get more dietitians have a voice to really bring some calmness to this whole situation of sugar is bad.
Yeah.
Which it's not. So white rice versus an apple, which one's better for you? And many will say white rice because it doesn't have any sugar. And it just makes me so sad.
Wow.
Well, and you've looked at your continuous glucose monitor, and what happens when you ate white rice versus when you eat an apple. Like the proof is in the pudding right there, right?
Exactly.
It's like it spikes after white rice. Like it's got a high glycemic index, whereas an apple has that fiber that naturally slows it down, and pectin and everything. So
that's the right thing to choose. And then you pair it with a protein and some fiber, like some veggies. Oh, and it's a beautiful little bump, maybe about an hour later, and then it goes right back down to normal. So it's a really lovely experience to know that you can if you want the right white rice, that's fine. Enjoy that with some meats and some veggies, and then go for a walk. I was just going to say,
go for a walk after. Yeah. That'll bring it down. That's right. Use muscles.
Yeah. So often I'll have my patients say, well, I waited for those 2 hours and I checked my blood sugar and it was really high. I'm like, but you had 2 hours to move. Get up, do something, do a house chore. I mean, if I'm sweeping or vacuuming, I'm exercising. I consider that exercise. So I'll do laundry, do a house chore, walk the dogs, play, with whoever's around. And sounds like it's hard to control blood sugars, especially during menopause. It really does add one other element to it. It's not impossible, but you have to really know who to turn to. And that's a registered dietitian. We are the experts. And I would hope that your doctors, refer patients to you. My doctors, some of them refer, some of them don't. And I always ask them, why didn't was in a forum about 10 years ago with a bunch of endocrinologists. And I asked them just point blank, I'm like, why don't you guys refer more of your patients to see me? And they're like, they won't go. They won't go. I just don't even mention it. I'm like, how can you make that decision for somebody?
Yeah.
And they're just so jaded by nobody's going to go see the dietitian because it's not covered by insurance and they're not going to do it anyway. It's like, well, you got to give somebody a chance. So there's a lot of ways that we can start improving people's health by just getting them to the right people. And we are the right people.
Yeah, and that's informed consent. Like it's kind of like giving them the information so that they can make the decision if they want to, go see a certain healthcare professional or not, right?
Absolutely. So we always have to remember that patient just needs our support and our love. And care and understanding.
Yeah, totally. Because it's a journey, right? Like no one's perfect. And it's like changing habits and, your behavior is one of the hardest things for humans to do. Like we take the easy route and it's usually we're on autopilot through the day. So, it can be difficult, and I get it. Like, it's definitely a journey for people. And I think it's really important to be a partner and helpful, like helping them through it, like a kind of like a coach, but not shaming. That's seems so mean.
I think there's two different sides to the nutrition approach too. I think there's like the science based where you come in and it's all black and white and you should be eating this and not that, and that can come across as sounding like you're getting scolded for doing the wrong thing. And then there's the more psychological approach, which is like the coaching side of things, right? And looking at lifestyle and why you're making the choices you're making, and other things that aren't so much science based, right? And I think if in order to get across to people and have positive results, we need to be a better balance of those two, I think, and not just focus on the physical, the science part.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, Kim, this has been like so valuable. And I love all your graphics and the way that you describe what's going on with the blood sugar and the insulin. I think that's really, it helps people paint a picture in their mind of like what's going on in their body, because it's so abstract. And when we talk about these things, so I think it's really been helpful, like for you to describe that. And I'm sure you've impacted like so many people over the 19 years of what you do in your practice. And I think that's amazing. And so for our listeners, what are like 3 main kind of takeaways in terms of what people can do to reduce their risk of developing diabetes for women going through menopause? Like, are there, 3 certain things that you would suggest?
Yes. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I love talking about this. We need to do this more frequently.
Okay. We'll have you back for sure.
That's great. The first thing I would say is you have to know where you stand. So we have to get those yearly exams. We have to know where's your A1C. A 5.7 or higher is an A1C that would indicate prediabetes. But a 5.6 A1C is still prediabetes. A 5.5 A1C is still prediabetes. So we really have to get back into, is this something that's affecting me? And it could affect me in the next 5 to 10 years. You need to get on top of it. So number one, find out where your health stands now. And the next thing that was not offered to me until I just was so done with all the symptoms of menopause was hormone replacement therapy. I initially I think it was like $300 a month for what they were going to have me take. And at the time I couldn't afford that. But since then there have been other therapies that are much more, easy to afford, like just the patches. I use those now, and that has really helped, not only with hot flashes, but just with energy. And it has really helped me to get off the couch. I had no energy for maybe 2 years, but it really helped me just to get my mind a little bit more clear. So talk to your doctor about hormone replacement therapy. It may be for you. It might not be for you, but it could be something that can help. And exercise, oh my goodness, I cannot tell you how much exercise helps. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, but it's something that you want to make it into a daily habit. You're not going to feel like it. You're not going to want to do it. It's going to be cold. It's going to be hot. There's so many excuses, but you just have to do it anyway. It's one of those things that will lengthen your life, will lower your blood sugars, and will improve your mood all at the same time. But you don't feel that until after you've done it. You have to do it first, and then you get all the good stuff. And it is about carb balance. We love our carbs. We can have the carbs. We can enjoy all the carbs, but we have to make them 90% of the time from our whole carb sources, our whole food sources, the potato with the skin on it, the soaked beans that we're going to cook in our stove, the high fiber breads, the wild rice instead of the white rice, the fruits with the skin on it, and the vegetables, not the applesauce, but the actual apple. So we really want to bring those whole foods back into our diet and combine that with lean proteins and lots of veggies. And all of that is going to help us just stay healthier and combat the effects of menopause.
Oh, yeah. No, that sounds really good. I love those tips. And that, I think that makes a lot of sense. And definitely work with your healthcare provider for, like you said, the first thing was like know where you're at and where you stand, where your health stands now with lab work and just to, blood work to see what's going on. And then maybe explore, the hormone therapy, and maybe that would be something that would help you. And if you have a healthcare provider that has some knowledge and expertise in menopause, that would be really helpful too, to talk to someone that has that lens that they're helping women through. Also exercise. I love that. That's, I'm, as Rob can contest, I don't sit still. I'm like the opposite. If I'm like sitting around over an hour, I start getting like kind of squirrely, and I'm like, I got to go for a walk, or I got to go to the gym and lift weights, or I got to go play pickleball or whatever, like I have to, I can't sit around because I have too much energy to burn.
That is great. And for somebody to go from sedentary to where you are is a possibility, but you have to start somewhere, because you do feel good, right? You do it because you like the way it makes you feel.
That natural dopamine, right? Like you just get that hit of dopamine, and yeah, absolutely.
I don't think anyone finished a workout and said, "Oh, that was awful. I feel horrible now."
Yeah,
you feel it. You feel alive. You feel strong, and you might be tired and sweaty, but you still feel like, "Oh, I'm glad I did that."
Oh, absolutely.
And it's the cardio. So the struggle with the belly fat and the visceral fat is just hard to get rid of, but it's the cardio that helps with that. So getting your heart rate up, not to the point where you're going to pass out. You can still whistle, but not have a conversation. But as long as you can still whistle, you're gonna be okay. You have enough oxygen so you don't pass out. That was somebody told me that back in the day, and I never forgot that.
I like that.
Yeah, I love that. Just to be able to talk to someone beside you, or without losing your breath while you're walking, like a brisk walk. Yeah.
Right. But it's the cardio, getting your heart rate up, that's going to help burn that belly fat. And a great place that I send everybody to, my online patients, in my office patients, we start at the bare bones, which is the plate method. That is the gold standard for a diabetes-friendly or blood sugar-friendly plate. You can go to diabetes.org. You can Google the plate method and ask for images so you can see a visual of what a blood sugar balanced plate looks like. And half the plate is going to be full of vegetables, and the other half, you're going to have your protein and your carbs. So it's a lovely plate of food. It's just not carb heavy, but it's fiber heavy. It's fullness heavy. Like, you eat a plate that follows the plate method strategy and you will feel full after that meal. Your blood sugars are better. You don't feel so sluggish, so you can get out and get that walk in. And that's where I start everybody. And that's what I basically went back to, is the plate method. And I design all my plates and all my videos around this simple method of blood sugar control.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have one of those a plate, like a fridge magnet on a fridge, so that everyone in the family can see that, there's the great ratio for a healthy, balanced meal. And that's like, you can do that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I think it's, people are always asking, but where does sushi fit in? But it all does. It really does. If you look, you can make any meal that, but it's just a matter of, watching. It's usually the carbs. Like, say you went to like Boston Pizza or somewhere where they have, spaghetti or pasta meal. That's still okay, but just look at how much is on that plate. It's probably 6 or 7 servings of carbs, and then not enough veg, and maybe some protein. So that's where the ratio is off. And if you readjust it, as you're saying, like that, half the plate is veg, and then, or even vegetables and fruits, if it's, depending on what meal, if it's a breakfast or whatever, like just, vegetable can represent vegetables and fruits, and the carb can be any whole grain. Hopefully it's a whole grain would be good. Even like potatoes might fit on that side, or corn, or, and then the protein, whatever protein food, like if it's chicken or fish or beans or tofu.
That's
Those are all
right.
great. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that.
It's really a great way to eat because you can have what you want as the carb. I love a sweet potato or a baked potato or beans, but every once in a while, I want the ice cream. So it's the veggies, it's the meat, and the ice cream becomes the carb for the entire meal. And that's how you don't deprive yourself of the things that you really want to eat from time to time.
And you keep your blood sugar still in good control.
Absolutely. And we're taking a walk or we're doing a laundry run or something to move those muscles a little bit. It all can work, and it doesn't have to be so scary. And it can be really simplified, more so than what the doctors are probably alluding to, like, oh, you'll have to take this medicine and have to check your blood sugars. And it can be overwhelming for somebody hearing that for the first time. But once you can get into the space of a dietitian and they can help you break it down, it's like, oh, I can do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It becomes a lot more simple once you
start.
have it explained by someone who understands and can sort of eliminate all the garbage and noise out there.
That's right. That's right. And that's how people go, okay, I can do this. Because, if it's hard, this, biochem, I was going to give up, right? If I had to take biochem one more time, I would have not survived it. I was going to say, that's it, I'm going to give up. And that's what a lot of our patients feel when faced with something really, really hard. But I just broke it down. I got a tutor, I got some help, and I got through it and I became a dietitian. And I think I can definitely, that experience, I relate that to my patients. Like, this is so much. It's so easy just to stop and just say, forget about it. But when you help them get through those hard things and we become the tutor and we become the helper to break it down, and they're like, okay, I got this now. I can get through this. I can pass the test.
It's one step at a time, right? There might be more steps because that's what makes it seem difficult, but that doesn't mean that you can't get there. It's doable.
Yeah. My dad was my project, and he kicked and screamed the whole 31 years after his heart surgery. He didn't want to do it, but I told him almost every day, because we live very close by, I could drive to his house in 5 minutes, and I would say, Dad, it's embarrassing if you don't control your blood sugars because I'm your dietitian. And how is it going to make me look? Okay, honey. All right. But I didn't say this part, which my mom was a huge part of her success. In that generation, the wives cooked all the meals, and my mom did a great job with my direction. And she always called me, what should I feed your dad? And I would explain, she forgot every day, but every day, we talked about what would be better for dad. And yeah, she did a great job keeping him alive for 31 years and keeping him free of complications. But we still had birthdays. We still had celebrations. He still had cake. I would make sure he had the cake when he came for Christmas or for Thanksgiving. I would make sure, like, Dad, don't worry, you're going to have the cake, but I would plate his plate a little bit differently, more veggies, more protein, just so he could have the cake. So his blood sugars wouldn't be 300-400. When I wasn't in charge, because that's what happened when I wasn't in charge, his blood sugars went to 300-400. I'm like, Dad, you can't do that anymore. And okay, it was always, bringing him back down to reality, but thankful that he had me. If he didn't have me, he would have probably been a double amputee and blind like my grandmother was.
Oh my gosh.
So it does require that connection with somebody that can help, like a dietitian. And that's why I can't wait just to get my presence online stronger so I can help more and have conversations like this with my patients. Like, I'm here. I'm going to help you through this. It's going to be okay. But you have to have some responsibility on your side too.
Well, where can people find you online?
Well, right now I do have a Facebook group called Diabetes Dietitian with Kim on Facebook. I have a Facebook page and a Facebook group.
Okay. Awesome. Oh, good. That's awesome.
I will be doing giveaways. I have handouts and things that I am developing for my website, which will be up hopefully starting in January 1 is my go date. So I should have a lot of, just resources to download and to look at. Lots more cooking videos to come. My cooking videos are 5 minutes. I do not cook. I heat and put together stuff. I microwave and saute. That's pretty much my cooking skills. So,
actually, that's a question that we had, and we haven't asked it yet. But So if you're going to bring something to a potluck, it doesn't have to be homemade or whatever. What would you bring?
Okay, I have a video on this and I will send you the recipe because this is what I'm going to make for any potluck. I am bringing my chicken fiesta soup.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I like it already.
All canned ingredients. You just dump and heat, and it is so delicious. You can doctor it up. So it's all canned ingredients. So we're going to start with unsalted chicken broth. We're going to start with salsa. If you can find unsalted, that's great. We have canned black beans. We have frozen corn, and that's it. That's it. That's the soup. You dump it and you heat it, and then you add all the toppings if you want, the cheese and the sour cream and the avocado, and you have it over cauliflower rice, or I just do minute rice. I just heat up my rice in the microwave and use that sometimes. Yeah, you portion the rice to be not more than 2/3 cup. Cauliflower rice, you can have all you want. Maybe you have some chips on the side once it's all said and done, but the salsa flavors it. And it is the most delicious 5-minute dump and heat. You have the canned ingredients right now. You guys probably have all the stuff that you need right now. And you can put it together and it would be amazing. I use canned chicken sometimes. Sometimes I'll just get a rotisserie chicken and chop that up. I rarely will cook the chicken. It's either canned chicken. And the reason I do this is because in my early days, when I was just getting out of my internship, well, actually part of my internship, I worked with this corporate health group, and I would have to go out and do cooking demos for groups of 100 to 500. Wow. And I would batch prepare that chicken fiesta soup. It would be in these huge gallon containers. I would just scoop everything in these gallon containers, put it in a big cooler, take it to the event, heat it up in a crock pot, and dish it out as my cooking demo for 100 to 500 people. They loved it. They're like, this is the best thing I ever tasted. And I give them the recipe and they were so happy. And it has been my go-to for every event that I go to, or even if I host like my second day after the turkey, today's Thanksgiving, after the turkey, we're doing chicken fiesta soup with turkey instead of chicken. And it's so fun to use the extra turkey that way.
Oh my God. So there's no broth at all. It's the salsa that
it is unsalted chicken broth or
chicken broth.
You can make it vegetarian. My daughter's a vegetarian. And so if I do it for her, I'm using vegetable broth, but I'm not adding the chicken, but I might add tofu or some edamame or something else to increase the protein for her. But yeah, you can change it based on your likes and dislikes, but it's broth, salsa, because salsa, just the chunky salsa tastes so good. It has all the onions. It has all the green peppers. You don't have to chop a thing. You just dump it, heat it, maybe add some rice or cauliflower rice and some cheese on top and avocado on the side. And you have the most delicious, quick and easy meal.
Salsa is amazing.
Sounds delicious.
We use it for a lot of things. Sandra dumps it in every soup that we make, and I use it in eggs. It's the first thing that goes in the frying pan, and then you just throw your scrambled eggs or whatever on top, and you've got this delicious meal that's easy.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. And it's fat-free. The only thing is if it's, there's not a lot of low sodium salsas out there, but you can find them.
Right.
It's pretty easy to make too, really. I mean, if you have time, I've always wanted to grow a salsa garden and make my own salsa. Because I mean, it can't be that hard. It's tomatoes and peppers and onions, and
that's right.
Right. So I'm sure you could, if you've got time and a food processor or whatever it takes.
Next summer, Rob, I want you to
someday I'll do it. Yeah, I've been talking about it for years. So
now is the message. You must start that. You have to send pictures, and now you have to make your own salsa. So it's going to happen. Yeah. Not in the freezing cold. You have to wait till spring.
I've put it out there now.
Right. Yeah, that's funny.
That's awesome. So if we ever have a potluck together, that's what I'm going to bring you guys.
Well, you know what? And that's part of our plan is to do a road trip around North America and visit all the guests we've had. So we will come to, you're in Virginia? No,
that's where
South
you were
Carolina.
When you were younger. And by the time you come down here, I'll probably be living at the beach in South Carolina. So that'll be a really fun place to visit.
Perfect.
Totally.
We might stay for more than just the one day.
Yeah, more than just the one meal.
If you're on the beach, you might have to feed us a couple meals.
Oh, you guys can bring your kite boards.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Here we go. So funny. This is getting better all the time.
Yeah, right.
You can teach me how not to drown and kiteboard at the same time.
Oh, perfect.
I would love that. But you guys are just so great. It's so good to talk with you. And yeah, anytime, just hit me up.
Oh, thanks so much, Kim. And you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I really appreciate that you took your time out to talk to us and give us all that great information for the listeners and for us. Like, it was just so fun. It was such a great information, and it was entertaining.
Well, you guys are excellent hosts and just so fun, and you have great questions, and it's such a great platform. And I'm going to be listening to more of My Wife, the Dietitian, over this holiday weekend.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
That's what we love to hear.
Yeah, totally.
Thanks so much for spending your time with us today, Kim.
You are so welcome.
Look forward to talking to you again.
Yes, me too.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
That was a great conversation, eh?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. She's really knows her stuff, and she was had some great stories, lots of anecdotes and fun little memories, and tons of information.
Yeah, and I liked how we talked about the visceral fat and how that accumulates in the abdomen, around the liver, and around the organs. It's like the belly fat, but it's more dangerous than just your subcutaneous fat.
Yeah, it's good to understand the difference, hey, because a lot of people don't really know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I loved her analogies where she was talking about how fat doesn't need an escort to get into the cells, but the blood sugar does, and that's what insulin is for. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was just I like her visual, like her stories to help people understand what diabetes is all about.
Well, yeah, she joked that that's how she learns. She's a visual learner, and she says, like if you start explaining something to her, she'll just be like, "Oh yeah, whatever." But she needs the picture of the diagram, and I appreciate that because I'm kind of the same way, and I think a lot of people are. So she painted some pretty vivid pictures with her explanations of things, which is great for this kind of topic because it can be complex sometimes and pretty hard to understand. So thank you, Kim, for painting those vivid pictures for us.
Yeah, and we'll be adding the information about Kim in the show notes, and I'm really glad we did this episode. It was a fun one.
Yeah, exactly. So check her stuff out. Like Sandra said, we'll post those in the show notes. Don't forget to check out our website, too. It's mywifethedietitian.com. You can sign up for a newsletter there. We've got a once-a-week newsletter, free to join. Lots of interesting stuff in there, great tips, recipes, updates, that sort of thing. We've also got a great blog on our website that's constantly being updated with new blog articles, different information there. So that's also free to look at that and scroll through there. You can send us an email if you have questions that you'd like us to discuss on the show. It's mywifetherd@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well, and feel free to drop us a line there. Give us a like, thumbs up, follow us, subscribe, all the things you have to do on social media to stay in the loop. Share with your friends. That's something super helpful to us, and your friends will appreciate it too. And something else we would appreciate is if you could rate and review the show. That just gives us a bit more visibility into the podcasting world, and the more visibility we have, the longer we'll be here, which will benefit everyone. So yeah, give us a handout with that if you can. We'll be back on Wednesday with Nutrition Nuggets, our midweek mini episode. So until then, have a great week, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on My Wife, the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review, and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.